Good morning all, hope you're doing alright. We'll look at gold because I was really undecided yesterday, and it looks like what we were saying, and by looking at the ratios, that was telling us the direction. So we can probably cut out a lot of noise just by looking at the ratios, which is this indicator at the bottom. And you see what's happened is that we had a rounding thing, like I was saying yesterday. That action there is going to cause price to do this. We're going to round, okay? So if we go sideways, we'll just go sideways. But if they're going like this, then we'll do this. All right, so remember, things are inversely correlated very accurately using the sentiment. Profitable traders are now long. We have got a big block to contend with, a huge amount of selling volume, which was the largest. If we look left, it superseded all other candles. So this is an issue currently, technically speaking. So it would be much better for a long at 1831 than your target weekly open. But we're currently in quite a lot of considerable consolidation there. So we've got a box at 1831 and 1815. So we might just do this, and then NFP tomorrow. So I guess it will depend perhaps on the sentiment. If they're going to continue to sell it, then we'll push price higher. We have exceeded ATL target, so that was a little bit of an issue, and we also exceeded ATL target on a lot of cross USD as well. And we can see the dollar moving on our. They didn't want to show you the Betfair thing, but that's fine. The dollar isn't moving, right? So it's going this way, and if it does soften, then gold's going to do okay. If we look at the daily chart, yeah, so yeah, they're going long on the dollars and they're short in gold. They're also short yen, Aussie, and Kiwi, and they're long CAD as well. So just a little bit of sentiment there. So it's a good idea to check the daily bubbles, and then you check your average bubbles to get like a a bigger picture there. So it depends on your time frame. If you're like a scalper, daily is probably better. If you're longer term trading, average bubbles is going to be okay. So CAD yen, for example, there you go, 63 pips there. So that's just using the bubble logic. The CAD weak, yen strong. What's going to happen to price? It's going to push price lower. Sentiment only, okay? So that's a great example of the bubbles. And so they can see they're selling gold on the daily view, so that's helping price get higher, but we have got some considerable consolidation ahead of us. So look for a long above 1831. Don't probably enter it now because you're going to encounter some chop. So a long here would be good to TP at weekly open. It's a very nice trade. And for now, I would just sit on my hands. If you had a bearish bias, you could potentially get the 1809 and TP there. But I would be careful because of this. Okay, let's look at yeah, dollar yen really fell, and so did euro yen as well. Quite heavy actually. Didn't really justify it in the sentiment. It's probably just basically the yen. We're seeing the strengthening on the yen. It's now top place. See how the yen has been bought. The dollar has been sold. There's the crossover here, which happened 6 hours ago. Right, you're looking at that crossover. Hopefully that's clear. And then you're coming back to this hourly chart 6 hours ago. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, I don't know if you would have been awake at that time, but then that's your entry because of the crossover. So this was a technical move, not a sentimental move. And it could have been fundamental because the yields probably would have fell. But I'm not sure, because when we look at the yields this morning at 8 o'clock, they'd risen again. So I think this was a technical play where we just had simply a strengthening of the yen. So that being said, the one above is 137.90 and 135.20. Now we want to look at Aussie. And I'm going to make the video short because I've got a bit of a cold. And it's really cold outside. So it's kind of annoying. Let's look at Aussie. Right, so let's see. Right, they're doing this rounding thing, okay? And there's your ATL target, which we've exceeded. We started the week here, and that's your technical support. We've really exceeded it by a lot. So we probably overdone it a little bit, technically speaking, and we would have raided a lot of stops as well. There is a fairly substantial one there at 65.58. One above is large. Not necessarily large, but it's far away, I meant to say. 69.25. Remember your monthly pivots there, so that does set the precedence for a technical bias, is that we are bearish below the monthly pivot. So you can look for longs, but inevitably until we're above the monthly pivot, we're technically on a big time frame quite bearish. So you could look for a short up here with a stop at the monthly pivot, for example. You know, you're looking like a 27 pip stop. And as long as you're getting 27 pips in your return or greater, and then that's going to be a good trade. So potentially we're going to do okay. We are going to go up because of what I was saying about the bubbles, and you'll see that the Aussie is moving left. We were over here, and the dollar is moving right, and the dollar was over here. In fact, the dollar was down here. So what it did, it told us that it just rated stops, and that's what we have to be careful of. Whenever something's down here, we can trade that reversal because we know it's a stop loss cluster probe. Likewise, anything up here can be traded for reversal as well. So that's what I think is going to happen. They'll need to sell it though. So if the price falls, it should encourage them to sell. So it might be a case of getting that for a nice healthy bounce, and then you've got your monthly support one for a very good technical level as well for a buy. So that can hold. If the monthly support one breaks, monthly support two is down here, which is far away. Let's look at EU. Well, obviously it's really popular, and it just did a big roller coaster this week. Is it going to load it? At some point I'll probably have to refresh my computer. Rounding thing, like I said yesterday on yesterday's video. So I wouldn't be too surprised if this does okay. One above is at 107.05, 105.20. There's your monthly pivot. So you know you're looking to sell it, you know, because we're below the monthly pivot. But if they're going to do this, then you know we're going to have like some kind of bottom effect taking place. Weekly open there. So I'm not sure we're going to get the weekly open. It's a long way away. But if we do, then you target SLC, okay? And we probably could have argued we'd made the move to the downside already. So that would have been the trade, the weekly open to SLC, which was 93 pips. You can see that blue line. That was the old SLC. So there's your weekly open. So that's the trade to the downside that's been. So I think it would probably likely trade to the upside to take the SLC. All right, and horrible basically. So you've got to be really careful and know where your exit is, and don't get frustrated if you get stopped out, because you don't want to get emotional. You want to try and keep like robotic if you can, and that's that, isn't it, really? So they might continue to sell it, which I think they might by the looks of things, and then we'll just gradually climb higher. And the yields need to come down a lot as well. The US yields are very angry this week. Yeah, I guess we can look at dollar Swiss. We had a nice healthy bounce off monthly pivot. There, the bounce there, up we came, which is a ridiculous move. So there's the monthly pivot. Just play. It's the trade, just to trade off monthly pivot, and then up we come. I was saying that we could potentially have come down to get the SLC, but we didn't, and we just rallied on the Powell testimony. One below is at 93.79. The one above is at 94.50. They're going slightly long on the average line, so I think that's possibly likely. If we break weekly open, we'll target monthly pivot. But be careful, because we had a very healthy respect of monthly pivot. So I think that's probably going to hold. If we look at the better volumes, for example, that would be a big bullish volumes down here. And so we've got to be careful about selling it unless maybe that breaks. Then it could be an okay short. But I think this is probably going to hold if we come back down again. Monthly pivot's a good strong level. And dollar yen. I guess we can look at the pound, I suppose. Yeah, so monthly 790, and then just wanted to have a quick look at this really to see how it's developed 135.20. Let's look at pound. And yeah, oh, that's weird. So yeah, they're selling it, aren't they? They went long. Of course, they got really punished. Sideways, and now just selling it again. So the one above is 119, and the one below is at 118. That's 100 pips difference. Did on a round number. ATL target had been exceeded, so I think probably that's possibly likely. And then we might be within the normal parameters again, which is basically your ATL target long and short. So we'd basically exceeded the selling, and we waited a lot of stops on the way, and that's just the FX, and it's been very cruel. And that's it. So probably a very light video tomorrow, and a light bulletin as well, because I'm feeling quite tired, and if my cold gets worse, then it will just be a very light bulletin. But if I get better today, then we'll just do a normal bulletin. So it's not really a hassle at all, and hopefully you find these useful as well. So remember your ATL targets and your SLCs. It's a good system to have, where you're looking for a long to target liquidity, or you're looking for a short to target liquidity. But we have exceeded the ATR long, so we really had overdone it a little bit on a lot of these dollar pairs, and so we can see the dollar bubble start moving across. So it might essentially, it could be over here by tomorrow, but for NFP. So just trade safely, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow.